Welcome to What's the Deal Wednesday. I'm Stephanie Wilson, the Argyle Insider, and today I'm answering the question, what's the deal with Argyle Community Church? You know, if you've been driving down 377 near Brush Creek, you may have seen the sign. And so I am here with the pastor. This is Tim Bach, and he's going to tell us more about this new church. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, my very first question before we get started is, in a small town where we have a church on almost every corner, in fact, I think we have one meeting at almost every Argyle school campus, what was the impetus for you guys in deciding that we needed to add another church to Argyle?
Well, thank you for starting with a softball.
Hard-hitting journalism.
I fought this really hard, honestly. This Argyle Community Church is named that because it kind of existed in our community before we gave it a name. So instead of, there's a lot of things, Argyle's growing. A lot of things coming at us really fast, outside in. This is a very inside-out movement. This is a by Argyle, for Argyle group of people. And it started with our coaches and families. Lots of youth sports. My wife and I have been here about 9 years. We've coached numerous seasons throughout the time, and lots of friends and coaches. We're very connected as families. And we had a tragic loss with John Louderback, who's just a dear friend. Think about him all the time with our kids going back to tackle right now. Yep. And that group of families, we were already meeting, and we started discipling and growing. And there was a lot of conversation about, hey, we're already existing. Why don't we name this something? And my answer was the same as yours. There's a church everywhere. And then I just started to feel convicted about two things. One, it's been a heart of Argyle, and I just couldn't run from that. It already existed. And two, in the book of Acts, I noticed how churches planted by scattering. And I started thinking, that's the thing I celebrate, is that there's more life-giving bodies of believers and groups of people growing. And so we started asking ourselves, what's not being done that if it were done could really impact the gospel? And it's more of a movement than a church, I would say, in a lot of ways. We started meeting through the week. And so there are dozens and dozens of men and women that meet in discipleship, what we call launching multipliers. It's a very serious mentoring program. And we started mentoring and discipling our community here in Argyle. And out of that came this life-giving group of believers that are just faithful people that love God, very teachable and willing to work. And so we just didn't know what else to do but go ahead and allow it to form.
Right. That's awesome. So you guys purchased this land here recently. And tell us a little bit about the plans for that.
Well, we want a place that serves our community very integrated through the week, because that's what we do already. We just kind of do life together. So we're going to, like this Brush Creek here, is going to be beautified into walking trails and play areas and discovery areas for kids. And so we really are focusing on who are the groups that could use this property and how could we provide that? Not with our own programming to make them part of this thing, but how do we create a space that serves what's happening in Argyle, because that's where we live a lot, is not inside of a closed circle, but it's very much inside of this community. So what you're going to see here from fields and training, a lot of areas for moms and groups, this beautification and play area here on the creek, and then it's going to be a place that we'll use on Sundays for gatherings to create a conversation for the most important message, which is we want people to know Jesus and what he desires to do in their life.
That's awesome. That's really exciting. So until you have a building, where are you meeting right now?
So it's been really cool. 19 and Elevate are some training facilities right across the street from this property here on 377. So it's close to us. We're doing some renovations there. Incredible kids development in there right now. So that we can have full family programming as well. But we're meeting in there, and I would say for probably the next year at least, we'll be meeting there, growing, going to multi-service, doing the things that happen as we grow in our community. But appreciate Mr. Holt, Antonio Griffin, and again, it's very integrated in our sports community, which has been a blessing. So it just kind of goes along with our theme, but we're right there at 19 and Elevate.
Okay. You guys are also doing something really cool that y'all started last month that I wanted to mention. Tell us more about this One Argyle worship nights over at Marty B's.
Yeah, man, we want to be visible, as believers, and so Marty's a good friend. We've coached Brooks, his kiddo, and so his family and our families, we've just all been very connected. And so we just had a crazy conversation about what would it look like if Argyle came to Marty B's for worship, because we already come to Marty B's all the time and we love it. And so one of our guys that does worship with us is named Chet Stevens, and we brought Chet's band, and we just set up and we just did worship at Marty's. And it was the funniest thing. It was cool to watch people come with phones and start filming because they're singing along, and I can tell everybody is in a similar situation on Sundays,
Right.
and they're still at Marty on Saturdays, and they all know the same songs, and so they knew all the words to the Christian songs too, and we just thought it was awesome. And so we just went there and lived out our faith and had a time of worship, and there were hundreds of people from Argyle that came.
That's awesome.
And it's got a lot of organic legs. We're getting contacts from it. We're hearing more groups coming, so we hope that our town will just show up and just be willing to take their faith forward in our community and do worship and live out what they believe.
That's awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being here. What's the best way for people to find out a little bit more about Argyle Community Church?
So argylecommunitychurch.org, or they can text the word guest to 817-406-9822.
Okay.
Text the word guest to 817-406-9822, and I'll immediately personally reply to them and try to get with them and just hear their story, because that's how every conversation at ACC happens. Is it's so by Argyle for Argyle. We want to sit down with Argyle families and say, tell us your story, what even caused you to be interested, and then how can we serve you? So
that's fantastic, especially with all the new people moving in. There's a lot of folks that are trying to find ways to connect their family and looking for a new church home. So thank you so much. And as always, if you have questions about the Argyle area or about local real estate, I am Stephanie Wilson with Magnolia Realty. I would love to answer any questions that you have and help be a resource for you. That's your What's Still Wednesday. I'll see you next week.